One of the biggest mistakes that beginners make when they're starting to work with Tableau is connecting to summarized data instead of raw data. You don't always have that raw data available, and if you do, you should definitely go for that, but sometimes it is summarized. A good example of that is survey data. So I have an example here that I'm going to walk you through that was posted to datarevelations.com by a guy named Steve, and it's a really good example of exactly how this works. There's some new features in version 9 of Tableau that make this really easy. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and connect to the Excel file that Steve provided at datarevelations.com. We're going to select, first of all, the data survey numbers. This is the actual results of the survey. And we're going to drag that right to the main work. You can see here that we have a respondent ID, which corresponds to somebody that filled out the survey, and then some demographic information like gender, location, the generation they belong to, and weight. There's also some question responses here. This is what we want to pivot. So I'm going to select that first column, Q0, go all the way to the end, and select, while holding down Shift, the last column. Then I just right click on any of those columns and hit pivot. You can see what happened here. I took the data from being very wide and very short to now it's skinnier and very long. So we have lots of different responses for each of the demographic and individual responses. Some quick formatting things here. I'm going to rename this to question ID. And I'm going to rename this column, since it's the values of each of the responses, to value. Excellent. There's another file that's included in here that we'll get to in a second. It's called the helper file, and it helps us map these question IDs to something that we can actually understand. But for now, let's go over to the worksheet. So if we bring in the question ID, you'll see that we have a list of question IDs instead of kind of a long horizontal view. Next, we're going to bring in the helper data file. So we come with the data, new data source. We're going to connect to the same Excel file, and we're going to bring the helper file into the main work area here. Go back to our worksheet. We're going to drag the grouping field to the left of the question ID field and the wording field over to the right. So now we have kind of a good hierarchy here. Next thing we're going to do is right click on the grouping field and create a primary group called grouping. We're going to do the same thing for the wording group. Now, if we take a new worksheet and we come over to our survey data, you can see that we have a new grouping field that we can select and also a wording field that we can select. These are two new dimensions that we have available because of the step that we just went through. So we're going to drag our grouping field into our filter section and just select the first item here. We're going to drag wording to the rows shelf. So now we have a nice list of the wording of each question that belongs to that first group of the questions. Now we can take the value field that we created earlier and drag it up to the column section. And instead of a sum, we're going to make this the average. So what this is showing here is the average value of each of the questions for individuals that were in this group.